We were reviewing a financial plan with a client this week, and they were shocked to find out that even though she had never worked here in the States, she was going to be eligible for nearly $1,500 per month in a spousal Social Security benefit. This changed the retirement plan to be able to retire this year versus next year. Today, we're going to talk about how the spousal Social Security plans work for Canadians. Hello, my name is Brian Haggard. I'm a certified financial planner and chartered financial analyst, and I'm the founder of Retirement and Financial. We help simplify your cross-border retirement plan. One of the scenarios that we run into quite often as a cross-border financial planning firm is a couple has moved down to the States after working in Canada for a period of time. And now that they're in the States, a lot of times they come here for one of the spouse's jobs, right, for their careers. And that spouse continues to work. And a lot of times the other spouse, they may do some work, but a lot of times it's maybe not as much work as they were doing in Canada. And even though one spouse isn't working much or maybe at all here in the States, they're still going to qualify potentially for a spousal Social Security, even if they retire back up in Canada. And a lot of people are surprised to find that out. So today, what we're going to talk about are what are some of the requirements and qualifications for qualifying for a spousal Social Security benefit here in the States. How much may you receive as a spouse here in the United States? And what are some different strategies that you may want to consider if you are eligible for a spousal Social Security benefit? So let's start by talking a little bit about just the basics of US Social Security, and then we can kind of get into how the spousal benefit works. So, here in the US, I'm sure everybody here has heard of Social Security. Social Security starts as early as age 62. Now, traditionally, if you've only worked here in the States, you have to have 10 years of US work to qualify for your own Social Security benefit. But actually working in the US and Canada makes it a little bit easier to qualify for your Social Security benefit. You can actually combine your US and Canadian work experience to qualify for a Social Security benefit. So for example, maybe you're only down here in the States for a 5, 6, 7 year work period, work assignment. A lot of people and then move back to Canada, but during that work assignment you paid into Social Security. A lot of people, they'll come to us and say, well, Brian, I don't qualify for Social Security. I didn't get my full 10 years in. But actually, because of this US and Canada totalization agreement, as long as you have at least a year and a half of US work and then combine that with Canadian work, there's a really good chance that you do qualify for US Social Security, even on some of these smaller or more temporary work assignments down here in the States. Now, that being said, the longer you've worked in the States, the more you've paid into Social Security, the more you've earned as a US worker, the higher your Social Security benefit is going to be. So yes, you might have only worked here for a few years. Yes, you might qualify for a Social Security benefit, but it might be relatively small because of the time that you've worked here. Now, how does spousal Social Security work? So how spousal Social Security works here is if you are a spouse of somebody who qualifies for Social Security, you either get your own benefit or up to half of your up to half of your spouse's benefit, whichever is higher. So I was just talking to a client yesterday, and we talked about him going back to work just so that he could, qualify for Social Security. His wife was the main breadwinner in the family, and he thought, maybe I can go back to work and qualify for a Social Security benefit. When we looked at the numbers, truthfully, he was never going to qualify for or earn enough to get more than half of what her own benefit would be. So he was always going to have a spousal Social Security benefit. So as far as him going back to work, at least for Social Security, it was really going to make no positive impact for him. So they made the decision that, hey, well, if it's not going to even help my Social Security, there's maybe not a huge benefit of going back to work. So what are some things that you need to do to qualify for this spousal Social Security? Now, a lot of times we get the question of, well, how if I move back to Canada? That's perfectly fine. You can collect a spousal Social Security benefit and your own Social Security benefit either in the US or Canada. There are some countries that if you move to, you could lose your Social Security benefits, but the US and Canada, because of the agreement we have with each other, you wouldn't lose your spousal Social Security benefit if you moved up to Canada, as long as you qualified for it. You must be at least 62 years old to collect a spousal Social Security benefit. But the big kicker here is that you can't collect your spousal benefit until the qualifying spouse turns his or hers on. And that kind of makes for a lot of different strategies, especially if the qualifying spouse has a large Social Security benefit and the non-qualifying or the spousal benefit is very little or nothing until you turn on that spousal benefit. So it's really important that you realize when we're doing the planning here, we kind of have to plan for both benefits because those benefits can be pretty significant. So obviously the question is, okay, Brian, yeah, I qualify. Well, how much am I actually going to be able to collect? So the amount that you collect is based on two things. It's based on when the spousal benefit begins. That is when the spouse who doesn't have much or any benefits. It's when their benefit begins. And it's also based on the amount of the qualifying benefit, the spouse who actually has enough earned work to qualify for a benefit. So kind of the rule of thumb and what a lot of people have heard of before is that the spousal benefit qualifies for one half of the qualifying spouse's benefit at full retirement age. You're going to hear me use this term FRA or full retirement age. FRA is what the US says is your full retirement age for Social Security. Currently, it's between 66 and 67 years old. The younger you are, the higher that benefit would be, or the higher that age would be. So for a lot of us nowadays, it is actually 67 years old. So let's say that you and your spouse are both 67 years old. The qualifying spouse turns on, her benefit at full retirement age. The spousal benefit will be exactly half of that benefit at that same age. Now, it's not always half the benefit. So if you are younger when you turn on your spousal benefit, so let's say I turn my spousal benefit on at 62 as opposed to 67, well, I'm going to get a reduced amount because of that, and that is locked in forever. So you don't get the full 50% benefit if you do turn your benefit on earlier. The other thing is that there's no increase to a spousal benefit if you wait to turn it on after your full retirement age. A spousal benefit is going to be the same at 67 as it is going to be at 75. If you delay and wait on your spousal benefit to turn it on, you're not getting any increase to that spousal benefit. So let's put some numbers behind that and actually look at an example. So let's say that the qualifying spouse, the benefit at full retirement age is $2,000 per month. If I was that person's spouse who doesn't qualify for my own record, if I turned on my spousal benefit at age 62, I would get $700 per month for the rest of my life. If I turned on that benefit at my full retirement age, I would get $1,000 per month for the rest of my life. And if I started my benefit at age 70, I would still only get $1,000 per month for the rest of my life. You can see, as we mentioned, by me delaying my own benefit, I'm not getting any more of a spousal benefit. Now, that qualifying spouse, his or her benefit keeps going up, right? At full retirement age, it might be $2,000 per month. And at age 70, it might be 25 or even a little bit more than that per month. So there is a benefit to that qualifying spouse potentially delaying past full retirement age, but there's no benefit to the spousal benefit. That will always be locked in at whatever half of that full retirement age benefit is. And so the other question that we get, and you might maybe have heard of some of my other webinars or videos in which we talk about the WEP benefit or the WEP reduction. And so one of the nice things is that spousal benefit is not subject to WEP, an additional WEP. So for example, maybe you move down to Canada and you marry an American, somebody who's never worked in the US before, or I'm sorry, in Canada before, has only worked in the US. Well, you'd still be eligible for a spousal benefit on his or her behalf. And based on, because you have a CPP benefit up in Canada, you're not going to get a further reduction here in the States because that spousal benefit is not subject to a WEP reduction. Now, the qualifying spouse may have a WEP reduction, right? And if that's the case, well, his or her benefit goes down. And as a result, when you turn your own benefit on, because you're getting a half or even less than that, your benefit will also be reduced, but you're not going to get a secondary or second WEP reduction on your own spousal benefit. So there is a benefit there to you. So what are some different strategies that you may want to consider? The biggest thing that you want to consider is both strategies, right? We hear a lot when we're talking to, initially when we're talking to families, and they, the person who's worked here in the States and they've earned the larger spousal benefit, a lot of times they tell us, hey, I'm going to wait to age 70 to get the highest spousal benefit there, or the highest Social Security benefit that I can get. Well, maybe that person's benefit, their full retirement age benefit, is $3,000 per month. And if that's the case, sure, they're waiting and that benefit, that $3,000 per month is going up, but that spouse is also maybe foregoing $1,500 a month every single month that they're delaying. And that's money that, remember, that spousal benefit never goes up. So yes, the qualifying spouse's benefit goes up, but you're giving up $1,500 per month in income in the meantime, with no benefit to that spouse potentially for going up, because we can't turn on the spousal benefit until the main qualifying benefit is turned on, right? So a lot of times in that situation, I'll be honest with you, we don't always wait until age 70 for the main spouse to turn on his or her benefit. It's just giving up a lot of money in the meantime to wait for that benefit to be turned on, especially if the spousal benefit, the person collecting the spousal benefit, is older, right? Because sometimes you're at 67 and you might want to delay your Social Security benefit, but now your spouse might be 70, 71, 72 years old. They're waiting until 75 or so maybe to turn on their benefit. And again, there's no increase to their benefit at that point. And all of a sudden, the break-even age for when you turn on the two benefits is really increased in that point. So it's really important when you're thinking of spousal Social Security benefits, you know what both benefits are, and you time that for the plan that makes the most sense. But again, a lot of times it doesn't always make sense to keep on delaying that larger benefit, that larger spouse's benefit, if the spouse's benefit is not really increasing much. Again, I hope this was helpful. Again, my name is Brian Haggard. I'm a certified financial planner, chartered financial analyst, founder of Retirement and Financial. We help simplify your cross-border retirement plan. If you're interested in learning more about this topic, please like, subscribe our page. Also, you can go to our website, retirementin.com. You'll find more articles there. And if you're interested, you could schedule a time to meet with a fee-only financial planner who helps understand your complicated cross-border retirement plan. Thank you very much.